Stories, your money. This is Rip Off Britain.
Hello and welcome to Rip Off Britain, the programme that's always ready to fight your corner, even though it might seem that no one else will. And today, we're going to be taking on an industry that every year, without fail, according to our mailbag, is one of your biggest bugbears.
We're talking about insurance, a topic that upsets you more than just about anything else, because whether it's a claim on your home or your holiday, it seems there are no end of reasons why your policy won't pay out.
Now, sometimes that's because you've been caught out by the small print, or indeed the terms of your cover simply aren't clear enough. On other occasions, perhaps the company's just messed up. But whatever the explanation, when you need help but your claim is turned down, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
Later in the programme, we'll meet a family who know that only too well. On top of everything else they've been through, they now face losing their home.
Without the insurance payout, I can't afford to keep the house because I can't afford the mortgage payments.
And the man who took on his insurers and won after they deemed that even though he was bedbound in hospital, he was still able to work.
As one expert said to me, medical expert, you'd have to be in a coma or dead to get a payout.
Now, it's bad enough that insurance companies expect us to have read every bit of small print that's in their policies, but sometimes it seems they expect you to read between the lines and work out what's not included. For the couple we're about to meet...
Next, a spirited man who's really taken on the big boys. Chris Hargreaves is battling to change a type of insurance that, as far as he's concerned, turned out to offer almost no protection whatsoever. He's worried that what caught him out could lead to the same nasty shock for tens of thousands of other people relying on similar policies. So in a way, he started a one-man campaign to make sure that what he went through can't happen to anybody else. Chris Hargreaves loves the chauffeur business he spent the last 15 years building up. But in 2009, all that was threatened when he had to spend 3 months in hospital with internal bleeding, a blood clot on the lung, and suspected cancer.
To have started a business at 21 and to have been passionate about building a business and working for myself, this was the first time ever I've not been able to work. And to see my business being financially damaged as well, you know, it was heartbreaking.
Amidst all the uncertainty, Chris was very grateful for the support of his parents.
It was very, very difficult seeing him so poorly and still trying to run the business in the hours that we work and everything else. We did find it very hard at the time.
And as if all of that wasn't enough, Chris's wife was made redundant.
We had to live on the statutory job seekers allowance of about £62.50 a week, which left us having to go cap in hand to her parents, who had to buy our food and our essentials because we just couldn't afford it.
But Chris was relieved that he'd taken out income protection insurance so that in a situation where he couldn't work, he'd be covered for any financial losses. But when he tried claiming on the policy, he was told by his insurer, Scottish Provident, that it wasn't going to pay out. As far as they were concerned, despite being bedbound in hospital, Chris was able to work.
Now, I've been racking my brains for 3 years, and I still do not know a job I could have done from a hospital bed.
Chris's claim was rejected because his policy didn't simply assess whether his ill health stopped him from doing his own work. It tested whether he was capable of doing any work. So his insurers wrote to say they'd considered whether he could do basic work tasks, such as walking. Could he walk 200 meters on a level surface without stopping or severe discomfort? Lifting. Was he able to lift a kilogram from table height and carry it 5 meters? Using a pen, a pencil, or indeed keyboard. Hearing. Could he understand someone speaking in a normal voice? Speech. Could he make himself understood in a quiet room? And vision. Was he able to read 16-point print using spectacles or other aids? Scottish Provident concluded that Chris was able to do 2 of these tasks while he was in hospital, so he could work.
The way that the worded, they're so fluffy that I might not be able to read 16-point print because I'm 95% blind, but the insurance company comes along with a giant magnifying glass and gives it you, and now I can make out that text, or I can blink twice for no and once for yes, and that means I can communicate.
Chris wouldn't have been assessed this way if he'd had what's called an own occupation policy. But because his job as a chauffeur was considered high risk, he was only able to get cover described as any occupation. And claims under this sort of policy are subject to these tests. But Chris now thinks it's unlikely he'd ever have met the criteria for his cover to pay out.
As one expert said to me, medical expert, you'd have to be in a coma or dead to get a payout, which the likelihood of you being in a coma are very low.
On the basis that his doctors agreed he was unable to work, Chris complained to the Financial Ombudsman Service. They initially ruled that there wasn't sufficient evidence to challenge Scottish Provident's decision not to pay out.
My insurer said, just because I was in hospital for 3 months doesn't mean I was ill. There's no evidence whatsoever to clarify I was ill.
Scottish Provident argued that although they appreciated Chris was very ill, the information they had been provided with showed that the criteria under which they would have paid out hadn't been met. But refusing to give up, Chris went back with medical evidence to back up his claim, and that did the trick.
The Ombudsman finally ruled that they should pay out, and with no right of appeal, the insurer, Scottish Provident, had no choice but to pay up.
Chris received a total of £4,800 for his insurance claim, plus £100 compensation.
I just burst out crying. All I saw was I'd won, and it was such a big weight off my shoulders.
But that's not the end of the story. Policies like the one Chris had are common throughout the industry. So believing them to be unfair and stacked against the customer, he started a one-man campaign to try and change income protection insurance. And it very quickly got noticed.
I just set up a Twitter account and had a handful of people following me who then started to tell me that there was a serious issue with these policies. And as the followers grew and became into the thousands, it became quite clear that these policies don't work.
Chris now has attracted over 13,000 followers to his Angry Policyholder campaign's Twitter page. And James Daly from Which magazine thinks that can only be good news.
People aren't questioning the small print, and I think companies have got away with it for far too long, creating policies that are complex and working in ways to ensure that they don't have to pay out when customers really need it. And so it seems that finally there's a bit of a head of steam behind a movement for change here, and hopefully we're going to see more insurers following the lead of some of the big ones who are starting to have better quality policies and higher payout rates.
Insurance giant Aviva has already altered its income protection policies to make them less severe. And now the company he took on is changing theirs as well. Scottish Provident told us that although its income protection policies have been extremely successful in providing many thousands of people with a secure financial future, Chris's case showed them there's an industry-wide issue around the assumptions customers make and their understanding of the different levels of cover. So alongside other insurers, they're working on changes to modernise their work task definitions, as well as reviewing which occupations are eligible for their own occupation cover, in order to make their products more consumer-friendly and the criteria more transparent. The changes will come into effect next year. But it's a great success for Chris, and he's determined to carry on campaigning.
I set this campaign up to try and make a difference, but it's still so upsetting and distressing that I've had to do it. I think it's disgusting that anybody can be treated like the way we've been treated.
When you feel you've had a raw deal, it can be hard to know what to do or where to turn. So to help you, we've put together a new booklet full of practical tips and advice. You can download the free guide on our website, bbc.co.uk/ripoffbritain. or to receive a copy in the post, send an A5 stamped and self-addressed envelope to the address that we'll give you at the end of the programme.